This video is brought to you by my YouTube memberships. To get access to exclusive perks and have the ability to nominate and vote for monthly retro movie reviews, consider joining as a YouTube member today. Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for Shrek, which came out in 2001 and is regarded as the most popular Dreamworks movie ever made. Best Dreamworks movie? That's debatable, but anyway, everybody in my generation knows this movie inside and out. We all grew up on it, we all love it. It's almost pointless for me to talk about what Shrek is about. But for whatever reason, if you've been living in a cave this whole time while hiding under a rock, in that case, I don't know how you're watching this video, but thank you. Or you were born in the last 15 years, then I'll tell you what Shrek is about. Shrek follows an ogre who lives in his swamp and prefers solitude. He stays away from everybody else. One night, however, a bunch of fairy tale creatures are dumped onto his land by the evil Lord Farquaad. So along with a talking donkey named Donkey, Shrek is on a quest to get his swamp back, but to do so, he must go on another quest for Lord Farquaad to rescue Princess Fiona so Farquaad can marry her. However, it's soon realized that this task is not as easy as it sounds, and I don't mean the journey part of it. So as part of my brand new perk of the year for YouTube members, they have the ability to both nominate and vote for one retro review every month. And most of my YouTube membership voted for Shrek, and this movie was recommended by Brandon Ferretti. So thank you, Brandon, for the request. And if I'm gonna be totally honest right off the bat, I was kind of hoping Shrek didn't win because I had plans to review the entire Shrek series in preparation for Shrek 5 next year. But you know what? The YouTube members say to do something, I gotta do it. I can't exactly say no, screw you, because they're paying money, so Shrek it is. Plus, to be fair, in the nearly 12 years I've been reviewing movies on this channel, I've reviewed several franchise films without following it up with reviewing their immediate predecessors. Like, I reviewed the first two Alien movies without doing the other sequels immediately. I reviewed Psycho without doing its sequels. Just a couple years ago, I reviewed Tremors, and I haven't gotten around to its sequels. And in my very first year, I reviewed Star Trek 4. Without reviewing the first three movies, so in hindsight, me reviewing Shrek without reviewing the other films is nothing. But let's actually focus on Shrek, because if you were around in the year 2001, you could not escape this movie. It was arguably the biggest movie of the summer of 2001, and only the biggest movie of the entire year after Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. But the summer of 2001 was actually a big year for Universal, in fact. They had The Fast and the Furious, which is really great. They had The Mummy Returns, which is fun, and the same thing goes for Jurassic Park 3. And while this movie technically was not released by Universal, Shrek is undoubtedly the best movie that came out that summer. It is the pinnacle of the anti-Disney fairy tale. I mean, right down to the fact that you've got Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio writing the script for this movie, and they wrote Aladdin 9 years prior to Shrek. When I reviewed Aladdin, I talked about how there's a lot of elements in that movie that are very much steeped in modern pop culture that would eventually basically bleed over into Shrek. And when you watch Shrek, you could definitely tell that it's from the same writing team that did Aladdin. Also, the movie was produced by Jeffrey Katzenberg, who used to be chairman of Walt Disney Studios from '84 to '94. So in a way, having the writers of Aladdin and the former Disney chairman attached to this movie makes it more clear than ever that it is a straight up middle finger to a lot of Disney tropes. I mean, the movie opens up with Shrek reading a story about Princess Fiona being locked away in a tower and many knights trying to save her, and the way that her spell can be broken is with true love's first kiss. Shrek literally tears the page out at the end, is like, yeah, that's never gonna happen, and theoretically uses it as toilet paper to wipe his ass. So if that opening does not tell you the kind of movie that it is, I don't know what else can. And you know what the ironic part is? For all the times in this movie that Shrek successfully spoofs Disney and pokes fun at them, The movie itself works as a fairy tale in itself. Like, it is a perfect fairy tale featuring true love, adventure, princesses. It is just very, very well crafted. The script in this movie is fantastic, not only in poking fun at Disney, but just following a lot of the structure with fairy tales. And the amount of dialogue in this movie is just fantastic. There are so many quotable lines in this movie. A lot of them come from your two main characters, Shrek and Donkey. We're gonna stay up late, swapping manly stories, and in the morning, I'm making waffles. There's that. There's when Shrek gets irritated at Donkey with the whole onion argument. No! You dense, irritating miniature beast of burden! Ogres are like onions. End of story. Bye-bye. See you later. I could quote this movie endlessly, and I saw this about 3, maybe 4 times in the theater when it came out. That's how big it was. But you know what? Let's actually talk about the characters. I mean, I don't know what much there is to say about Shrek and all the other characters in this movie because they are iconic. Shrek is of course voiced by Mike Myers, and he was actually not the first choice to play Shrek. Every Shrek fan knows this story, but for those that don't, Shrek was originally supposed to be voiced by Chris Farley. In fact, Chris Farley had recorded a lot of his dialogue, but unfortunately he passed away. So they brought in Mike Myers to replace him, and he actually requested that he record all of his dialogue again, but with a Scottish accent, and it worked. He makes Shrek to be this pop culture icon, and one of Mike Myers' more restrained roles. I've said this a few times, but whenever you get a big comedian to voice an animated character, a lot of the times they are very good at restraining that actor and not making them like just be themselves consistently. I mean, sometimes it works, like with Robin Williams as the genie, but with Shrek, Mike Myers is surprisingly restrained. He does not act at all the way he does in some of his more high-profile movies, like Austin Powers. No, Shrek is very much a down-to-earth guy. He'll lose his temper every now and then, but you really don't see Mike Myers in this role. It's a performance that is very much on the down low, and Shrek himself is a great character. He is very much a sympathetic character because he just wants to be alone. Everybody in the world judges him for what he is on the outside rather than who he actually is inside, which makes the onion conversation all that more important because Shrek has layers, just like onions. And when he meets Princess Fiona, both of them can't stand each other because they are very much looking at each other on the outside. Princess Fiona is voiced by Cameron Diaz, and she's great as well. Fiona starts off as this very typical Disney princess. She knows all of the tropes to be expected from a princess, to the point where she had her whole escape from the castle planned out in her head, only for it to not go as planned when Shrek arrives. And as the movie goes on, both of them start warming up to each other, they start seeing each other for more than what they appear to be on the outside, and they fall in love. The romance is very well done and reminds me of Beauty and the Beast, how that romance was very much built up and didn't just happen like that. Now, I talked about how Shrek is an example of a comedian who lands the role of an animated character but is restrained. That cannot be said for Eddie Murphy as Donkey, and I don't mean that as a criticism at all. Donkey is very much an Eddie Murphy character. There is no mistaking that this is Eddie Murphy in the role, and he is fantastic. Donkey is such the pinnacle animated character sidekick where he's obnoxious, he talks nonstop, he's kind of oblivious to a lot of things that are happening, but he has a good heart at the end of the day, and Eddie Murphy has some great lines as well. I already mentioned the waffle line, but when you get to the end of the movie when they're breaking up Fiona and Farquaad's marriage, there's the whole conversation of, look, you love this woman, don't you? Yes. You want to hold her? Yes. Please her? Yes. Then you got to try a little tenderness. The chicks love that romantic crap. That is undoubtedly Eddie Murphy, and again, I gotta stop quoting these lines because I could just veer off and talk about them forever. But Donkey is a great character, and he works very well as the comic foil in this and the second movie. And also, rest in peace to the donkey that inspired Donkey. And then of course you have John Lithgow as Lord Farquaad, who is a perfect villain. Like, he is just this egotistical, short, power-hungry man that we've seen far too much of in the real world nowadays. So, rewatching Shrek and knowing what's going on in the world right now, this character hits home more than ever. Especially when you see all the banners for Farquaad, that's just this white F against a blue backdrop. We all know what that represents nowadays, but John Lithgow is great as this character. He's so egotistical, he has this great maniacal laugh, and his first introduction is just brilliant. He comes across as this threatening villain who antagonizes the gingerbread man, but when he walks up against his guards, we get to see how short he is, and then again when he walks up to the table, he's laughing maniacally and goes, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, when the table just reaches his eye level. It is comic gold. Of course, I couldn't talk about Shrek without talking about the music, because the music is definitely next level in both the soundtrack and the score. The soundtrack is iconic because it features All Star from Smash Mouth. Obviously, this song predated Shrek by 2 years, but in the same way that Deadpool and Wolverine reignited the popularity of NSYNC's Bye Bye, Shrek basically reignited the popularity of Smash Mouth's All-Star to where you can't hear that song without thinking about Shrek. And the rest of the soundtrack is great. You've got Bad Reputation, you've got Alleluia, you've got Smash Mouth's cover for I'm a Believer, which is really good. And then the score by Harry Gregson Williams and John Powell is fantastic. The score is so iconic that the Shrek theme itself ended up becoming the Dreamworks animation theme. Whenever you see that logo, you always hear the Shrek theme. It's very similar to how Wish Upon a Star from Pinocchio ended up becoming the Disney theme. It's just that iconic. Now, unfortunately, I don't want to go into the bad things about this movie because I think it's brilliant overall, but Shrek definitely has some things about it that either have not held up or have kind of left a negative impact on animated movies going forward. Obviously, this is a CG animated movie from 2001, and there's a lot of points in this movie where the animation is very much of its time. Now, watching it on Blu-ray recently, and having seen the movie recently in a theater again, the animation is overall good, but you can very much tell that it's early 2000s animation. Now, I'll say this, the human characters in Shrek definitely look a lot better than the human characters that Pixar was animating at the time. And for me, I don't think human characters in CG animated films would be perfected until 2004 with The Incredibles and Shrek 2. Now, one bad thing that Shrek did was set a trend for animated movies going forward, at least for the next 10-15 years. We all know that Shrek ends with Fiona and Shrek getting married, and it's a wedding scene where all the characters are dancing to I'm a Believer. Nearly every animated movie that was not Pixar, or even Disney, that came out after Shrek had to have a giant dance number at the end of it. And Dreamworks kept doing this a lot, to the point where it just got really old, really tiring. Like, it was fine in this movie, it works within context, it even works for Shrek 2, but several movies afterwards where it became a cliche in animated films, there's a reason why this trend basically died off. Like, I can't remember the last animated movie I saw where it ended with a big dance number. But regardless of all that, Shrek is a masterpiece. For over 20 years, it has held the test of time. It is a brilliant movie in terms of its writing, the characters. It is one of the most perfect animated movies ever made, and was actually the very first animated movie to win the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. And for all that, I easily have to say, get off your ass and go see it right now. If you haven't seen Shrek, or you haven't seen it in a long time, give it another watch, because it really is that entertaining. And again, it is DreamWorks' most popular movie. Their best, though, I would say How to Train Your Dragon and Shrek 2 are better than this movie. And maybe The Wild Robot. The Wild Robot's still relatively new, but I need more time to think about that because that movie is just so good. But Shrek itself, again, is a masterpiece. And there you go, that's my review for Shrek. Now, like I said earlier in this review, I'm gonna hold off on reviewing the Shrek sequels and Puss in Boots until we get to Shrek 5 next year. The movie got pushed to Christmas of 2026, so around that period of time, I will be reviewing the Shrek sequels and the original Puss in Boots. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I want to give a special thank you to my subscribers and YouTube members right over here. You guys are the reason why this channel continues to grow the way it is, and if you want to get a chance to nominate next month's retro movie review, you can join via YouTube memberships for as little as $1.99 a month. But until next time, I want to know what you guys think about Shrek. Whatever your opinions are, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. If you want to find me elsewhere on the internet, you can do so via these social media platforms and my theme park and travel channel right here on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.